so serious? I mean, let's just have some fun with a casual video once again. And I did ask you if you want it pre-recorded or live. Wanna guess what this is? It's obviously a pre-recorded video, but what I decided to do is a premiere. So whenever this gets released and you're watching it live with me, I'm there in the chat answering all your questions. So let's start off with the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3, which might actually be a phone for the selfie lover out there. And you want to know why? I mean, just think about it. You are scrolling through your feed, and then you get this passionate urge to make a selfie. All you have to do is slide down, make a pose. Hashtag cutie is born. That's it. No, not ever from my side, but I'm not judging. I'm not judging. All I'm gonna do today is judge this phone. This kind of bad boy of a phone. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. What is actually very cool though, we get this, in my opinion, a little bit too slippery case, but it's free, it's fine. And even better for free is this wireless charging pad. Really nice because it's actually, as you can see here, very grippy. So, let's talk about design first. Let's actually compare it with the OnePlus 5T, which is pretty much a 6 or the 6T. And you can see, yes, it is a little bit taller. It's obviously thicker, but it is narrower. And for the very first time, a Xiaomi Mi Mix is finally curved towards the back, which just makes this phone so much more pleasant to hold. It feels so much narrower, even though it feels very tall. But it feels really, really nice. I mean, my first concern was that the sliding mechanism is a little bit too loose. And it is a little bit imperfect, but I guess that's just due to the mechanism itself, because as you can maybe see, there is a gap here. I mean, you can't really avoid that at the bottom, at the top as well. So that's just the thing. And what I've noticed, for example, that this feels a little bit cheap, like for the first inch, then it gets more solid, and then it feels good. But this initial concern actually got quite milded up when I use it for the whole day, because it still feels very nice in hand, and the sliding mechanism wasn't a real issue. I personally would wish for it to be a little bit more stiff, but yeah, it could loosen up over time, yeah, obviously. But the back, for example, I have to say, feels very, very grippy, more grippy than any other Mix before. I'm not quite sure because it kind of looks and feels very similar to the previous ones, also with the sides, but this feels freaking fantastic. It's just depending on how long. Now the fingerprint reader, I mean, Xiaomi, typical, it's a very fast one. Even though it does look like it on the video for some reason right now. Maybe due to the update, because yesterday it felt way faster. The camera does protrude a little bit. The buttons are placed a little bit higher than usually for Xiaomi is fine though. I mean, yeah, everything gets taller, everything gets higher up top. Even though I don't get why. Here we have the mic, we have the SIM card tray, we have the, yeah, it's not a Bixby button, and it's not really a Google Assistant button, at least not officially until we get to the global version, but this is Mi AI's personal button. Yeah, then we have the speaker here, mic, USB Type-C. We have a notification LED, a quite small one here, I think somewhere. What we don't have though, which is super nice to see, is a notch. But I still have to say that this phone, I mean, due to the long form, it feels still very tall. But what I've noticed today using it for the first time, it is very heavy towards the bottom, and even though it is a long phone, it never felt like it would flip over. So I think they got the weight balance right, because usually I'm so curious about that, but this time, no, actually really well done. I mean, personally, I would still wish for this. I would so love for this to be 16:9 with no bezels and all, with the same battery size, even though it's already a little bit of a chunkier phone due to the slide mechanism. But this would be just perfect in my opinion, and that's that. Bezels on the sides are actually absolutely moderate this time. I mean, they slimmed it down from the Mi Mix 2S, I would say. Yeah, earpiece here, which unfortunately is not used for the stereo speaker system, because it is no stereo speaker system. It's a bottom firing one. So that's that. Buttons, nice tactile feedback. And overall build quality feels actually really, really nice if you don't have an issue with this slightly cheaper part, because the back, yeah, a little bit slippery for some people, but not for me. Also feels quite good. Now let's talk about the display. I mean, there is not that much to say besides the fact it's a 1080p display. Super long though, which is fine. I mean, viewing angles are totally stable. AMOLED black's great. Brightness of about 700 lux, 709 to be actually precise. Really nicely calibrated. I'm using the saturate mode. You can still obviously change it in the settings. But it is a really nice display, I actually have to say. Usually I said no 1080p for me anymore on an AMOLED, but I think I would be fine with this one, because it's more than good enough. I still kind of want a QHD device by now, but I didn't really felt back because the quality seems really, really good. What about that one of the speaker though? The speaker is okay, but it's the worst mix speaker. I mean, we don't have a dual speaker array anymore, which is just upsetting. They could use it maybe, I guess, I think still in the earphone and the earpiece. Why not? I don't know. I mean, it sounds decent, but it's just not good as on the Mi Mix 2S or on the Mi Mix 2. Not quite so sure about the previous ones. Nah. I'm a little bit disappointed, I have to say just that. Headphone jack, yeah, not on the phone, so already therefore I'm disappointed, but it usually should still be with the dongle, actually a quite good one with all the settings and so on. So let's get into the performance, and we're pretty much already done. I mean, I'm not right sure what I should tell you about the Snapdragon 845. It's super responsive, it's super fast, it reacts very well. There is pretty much no lag. I mean, it doesn't feel faster than a Mi Mix 2S or any other Snapdragon 845 device. Multitasking is what it is. I actually like this approach here with the layout, but performance is top. It gets actually, what I've noticed though, a little bit warmer than some other phones. So I'll have to check that in terms for gaming and so on. Battery life, obviously after just about 1 day, I can't judge it yet. But the first day actually looked very promising because I used the camera way more than I usually do during a battery test, and it looked throughout the whole day like 5 hours on mobile data, but that was with the camera. So if I wouldn't have used the camera like I usually don't do on a battery test, it seems actually to be holding up better than I expected, maybe 5.5 hours. I mean, that's not a rating or anything yet, but it actually looks pretty decent, way better than I expected. Maybe due to MIUI 10 improvements, standby rain or anything like that, it'll come down to what happens in the next few days. Now about the software, yeah, this is still a Chinese ROM. Let's actually check which one it is, because I actually just got today an update. Nah, this is not it. This is not it. This also, yeah, it always jumps. Yeah, just forget it. Now we got it. As you can see, this is 10.0.9, if you can see. And what it actually added, at least the one thing that I've noticed, is that now we get notification icons. This option now is here. As you can see, show notifications icons. Because when I got it out of the box, it didn't have that option. Other than that, though, it's still pretty much MIUI. I mean, you can see this little bit of a different layout for the volume. The quick settings now actually have changed a little bit because you can adjust them here, and you have 12 by now available with the changes. So the UI is okay. The wallpapers you can change. You have a lot of features, so I like it. You get update for usually quite a long time and so on. I'm not gonna go into the camera app because that's pretty much still the same now with the addition of 4K 60 and 1080p 60, which is something that they didn't usually bring. But let's check actually the pictures, but it will actually already be pretty much the camera review for my upcoming review, where I guess I will be shutting it a little bit shorter. Cutting it, shutting it, I don't know what I meant with that, but that is pretty much gonna take a while. So in case you don't care, skip. Okay, so let's start on with the selfie cam, which is good quality. I mean, here is actually a little bit, yeah, sharper than many other ones out there. And here it's fine, and here again. And I have to say, I'm really, I'm really pleased with the quality. As you can see here, how detailed this is. Colors look spot on. Just as my hair. And here you can see the bokeh mode. And one thing you will notice quite quickly is what happens here. Forgot. Now, this is still fine. Now, what is missing here? Can you guess? Yes, it's my ear. It's not there anymore. I mean, yeah. And then we have the different modes. For example, as you can see here, the rainbow mode, and different mode, and one more, and yeah, this is that. Now, bokeh mode, actually, I think Xiaomi does a really good job here. I like it. But especially I have to say I like the selfie cam. If I would actually use the selfie cam on my own, I would enjoy this one. Yep, I would. But I won't. Now this is without the flash and with the flash, and as you can see, actually it gets more detailed because this is actually quite soft, and now it gets a little bit more detailed. So the shadows get a better job. So yeah, because we have an LED flash, since we have the space below the slider mechanism. Here once again with the flash, here without, with the flash. So let's get into ultra low light. This is with the normal photo mode. This is with the night mode. I mean, yeah, I mean, it sometimes does a better job than, like, for example, now, because it just brightens things up a little bit. But what it generally does, it adds contrast, makes it sharper though, and it makes actually a quite good job, because here, as you can see, not that detailed, And now when we switch, it actually gets a little more detailed. Usually also a little bit sharper. Like for example, as you can see here, this, I mean, it looks better. It's not a Huawei mode for night, but yep, here for example also, it makes a better job. Especially here, for example, you can see this is not really that detailed. But whatever the cam does in detail, I mean more specifically, it does look better. I mean, once you zoom in, you notice some issues happening, but yeah, it looks better at first glance. And then here, for example, as well, this is where it makes a better, more of a difference than I actually thought, because as you can see, everything here is quite soft, not grainy, but soft, and it gets way more contrast and actually sharper. So I'm pleased with the night mode, and the night mode actually works really quick. I'm actually going to show you, maybe if I don't forget it, a little bit later on. Inside, as you can see here, it always seems to improve the picture. Maybe it sharpens it up a little bit in post-processing, not so much in terms of actual quality, but it looks better. I mean, look at this part and this now. I mean, I think it's better. Okay, here, and yeah, the portrait mode for the main cam does not work that well. Maybe if you have a proper person, but that's that. Now outside, I have to actually say, if this is just supposed to be an improved Mi 8 camera, whatever they improved is done really well, because pictures look a little bit more natural, they look generally sharper, a little bit more detailed. The focus in most cases works good, but not perfect. I mean, I've seen better ones, but nothing I can really complain about. Once again, the portrait mode, yeah, maybe it needs a person, I don't know. HDR though, I don't know what happened recently, because this is with HDR. What happened usually in the past, the picture got a little bit darker but more contrasty, but now it seems to do the exact opposite, which is something that I just don't really get. So I prefer it by now without HDR. I mean, sometimes like this it works because it gets the details out here better, but I prefer this picture from my standpoint. But once again, pictures look really, 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 really good. Yeah, and that's that. So let's check the videos. Let me turn off the sound. I'm not quite sure how much you can actually see because it was super dark, but I just wanted to show this how stabilization works. This is 4K 60. Yeah, and there is no real stabilization. 4K 30 then gets that. But as you can especially see here, the tree is barely visible. So once I switch to 1080p 60, you can see a lot more in the darkness, because due to the lower res, it can pick up actually more light. So in case you want to make videos, yeah, I think go for 1080p 60. You will just pick up more light and it will be less grainy and so on. So this once again for the selfies. Also very dark, but it's 1080p after all. But it looks good, and this is the same clip with the flash. So yeah, it definitely does help. It does. So what's the next one? That should be the main cam in 4K 60. I mean, you won't see that since the video isn't 4K 60, but I mean, I think it's pretty much borderline of not being able to use it, just because there is in fast motions just too much artifacting going on. So they should have pushed the bitrate way higher. I mean, once you don't move it, I mean, there's no stabilization, that's fine, but the quality is good, and the autofocus is, I think, actually a little bit too abrupt, because if we go to the part where I'm gonna play with the autofocus, you can see how it quickly snaps, as you can see here. But that's a little bit too snappy in my opinion. But the autofocus works well. Now the same thing with 4K 30, and I'm not gonna go into 1080p 60 or something like that. Now it's stabilized. Quality with 4K is just about as good. The autofocus is still snappy, quality is good, so because you don't get so much artifacting, I mean, you see a little bit of a kind of blur effect due to the stabilization going on. But yeah, just use that, or maybe open camera and bump up the bitrate or anything like that. Now about the selfie cam, really happy with the front-facing selfie video cam. I mean, yeah, the exposure here is a little bit flaky for this moment, but very detailed, very natural colors, and this is by far the best selfie camera from Xiaomi's side. Looks spot on, nice and sharp. Yeah, it still shakes, even though it should be stabilized. Maybe they'll add that later on, but even inside, this looks really good. Also the microphone, I'm gonna try to give you the demo, but I don't think you will hear much.
I have to see about reality now in lower light.
Yeah, let's just forget it, because actually my speakers are playing that. It's not internally audible, so I should have changed it. But the speaker quality is noticeably better than it was on some other Xiaomi phones, so that's good. So we are done with the camera, which I think took quite a while. So I'm not gonna judge too much yet, just because, I mean, my first impression was, this is a little bit too loose maybe, and it will loosen out over time, and I'm missing a little bit of the more premium, more solid heft of a phone that is just in one piece. But having used it for the whole day, I didn't really mind it so much. I mean, I'm not quite sure just yet how loose it will get, because as you can see, there is not too much resistance. I mean, in normal use, especially if you have your pinky beneath, which will kind of block it, it shouldn't be an issue. But it feels better than ever, just because they finally made what I always wanted, more of a Mi 8 design with the curved corners. The display is actually pretty nice for this price. I mean, yeah, QHD would have been nice, but it's not gonna happen just yet. Speaker is good, but not more. Performance is, well, flagship performance. Battery life is actually, seems for now better than expected, which is nice to see. Software, actually they improved a few little things now with the latest ROM here, because finally, for the very first time, the DPI settings work, so I can change, and I did change the DPI, also obviously the speed of the animations to 0.5 and so on, but a few of the issues now with notifications, icons showing up and so on, this is a better pleasant experience, because for a while I was concerned, I was complaining already about in the last few reviews, but now they fixed all my complaints, so now I would bump up the ROM definitely more, even though I have to say that it was a little bit troublesome for me getting the Play Store working, because all I had to do is just install the Play Store. Usually you have to install the services framework, which is not needed anymore from this unit that I got from Trading Shenzhen. They said that right now as it is, it also has already everything. So all you have to do is just install the Google Play Store, and then you're good to go, which is actually quite nice to see. I mean, call quality, I have to see about that yet. Reception seemed absolutely fine, actually very fast today. So all good. Camera, I have to say that it make a big improvement over the Mi 8, even though it should not be, because selfie, obviously due to the dual camera, 24 megapixels and so on, makes a really nice job, not just for video but also for the selfies. Bokeh mode works fine, the studio mode with all those extra effects, I mean, if you need that, but you get quick access to that, and as you actually can see how quickly that works. So this, and you are in the camera, I mean, yeah, let's actually try this when we are in the camera app. No, wait, let's try it like this, and now, so it works quite quick, I would say, and you can make a selfie. I mean, that's fine. Yep. Price-wise, I think it starts at $567 with 6 GB and 128, which actually doesn't seem bad, because that's on par with a OnePlus 5T. That obviously will have the better battery life. I mean, it just has to, because the battery is 500 milliamps bigger. But I mean, it actually seems like a decent competitor. I mean, it pretty much just towards the OnePlus, because everything else is just different. But I mean, design-wise, the OnePlus will feel more solid, because it doesn't have the sliding effect. The displays, I would say, should be pretty much on par. The speaker should be also pretty much on par, which doesn't mean much. The performance, I mean, this is available with 6, 8, or even 10, which is overkill gigabytes. Camera, this is something very interesting, because I should get the OnePlus 6T next week, and then we'll see. But for now, I mean, they did a big jump. I've not seen from a half generation step from the 2S to the 3, or like on other phones, such a big step, because they across the board improved it. And if the Mi 8 though, with which they said with the improved camera is now just as good, if they can improve so much by software alone, I don't know. I don't have the Mi 8 here anymore, but my little bit of a concern, that's why I was a little bit speechless, is the sliding mechanism, because I asked that on Twitter today. Are you willing to compromise on a smaller battery with a heavier and bigger, thicker phone just to be notchless? I mean, if you use an approach like OnePlus 5 or OnePlus did with the 6T, with the small little teardrop notch, but therefore get a bigger battery, maybe not quite as good as a selfie. I think this one will be better due to the dual cam and due to the LED and so on. But I mean, if that's worth making the device thicker, heavier, and worse in terms of battery life, I am not quite sure. If you don't care about it, if you think the feature is cool, it might be just your thing, because it feels still very premium. But for how long? I mean, so far I really like it. I'm enjoying my time way more just normally using it when I'm not so much in review mode. When I just used it casually throughout the day, then the experience was actually pretty nice. I mean, I'll know more about it in a week or so when I release my review, but that was a pretty extensive preview. But if you have any further questions, but by now, I guess in the live chat, I've answered already so many out of them. So, bam, bye.